he respects, as others who are good negotiators, and he's one of the best negotiators, they respect strength. That's why we're building Canada Strong. There's lots of reasons to build Canada Strong, but the point is we have more than enough to do here at home. That point about we can give ourselves more than the Americans can take away is absolutely right. So that is a good in and of itself. We're going to focus on that while we have these negotiations with the Americans. And if the negotiations with the Americans take longer, so be it. We've got more than enough to do here.
All right, that's Mark Carney answering questions today. You're going to hear, by the way, his address coming up right after traffic in about 9 minutes from now. You're going to hear what he had to say today, and then I'll base a question on that, because everyone I've spoken to, quite impressed with what they heard from Mark Carney today. But let's go to James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, he was asked, as you just heard in that clip, how he's going to approach this. What did you think from what you heard today?
Listen, I think one of the reasons he's prime minister, was elected prime minister, one of the reasons he got this very, very just on the edge of a majority government. It's minority, but very, very close to it. And one of the reasons he completely reversed the fortunes of the federal Liberal Party is very simply this is a guy who sounds like he knows what he's doing. And we have yet to see if he actually does know what he's doing, but he's certainly, that's half the battle. This is the kind of guy who, when you're confronted with a raving lunatic like Donald Trump, and you've got this guy on your side, you've got to figure, you know what? I'm not worried when he goes down to Washington next week. I'm pretty sure he's going to do a good job. And there's, of course, like a 95,000-page backstory on what's happening in Washington right now. Donald Trump has not been having success after success with his dangerously lunatic attempts to declare a trade war on the entire planet. But all that said, this is the guy that you want to, as far as I'm concerned, that Canadians wanted to see front and center defending this country's interests. And as far as I'm concerned, Aaron, the fact he has such a devious sense of fun, the fact that he has turned around and invited Charles III to actually deliver the throne speech for the opening of Parliament is just the icing on the cake. The fact that he is going to show Donald Trump, because this is an expression of sovereignty, I know. We have a headline already in the Gazette, Quebec separatists miffed, decry, they're denouncing it. But you know what? It's about time. It's about time some prime minister pissed these guys off. They were using Justin Trudeau as a doormat for 10 years, okay? He turned around, guess what? They don't call it the throne speech for nothing. It is the place where the monarch sits. Normally the monarch's representative, the Governor General, sits there, delivers the throne speech, but by and large, the Charles III, and even though it galls Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon of the Parti Québécois and refers to Charles III as the King of England, as does everyone's favorite Quebec billionaire Pierre-Carl Pelledo and his satellite publications. The fact is he's the King of Canada. I wince even as I say that, Aaron, but the fact is constitutionally he's the King of Canada, he's also the King of Australia, but he is our head of state. So the fact that he's coming here, the fact that this is going to make all the American news shows, okay? All the pump, all the circumstance, because for people who claim to be, big on republicanism and whatever, Americans are the biggest suckers for royalty, okay? Pomp and circumstance and so on. This is an excellent show to not just for the Americans who voted in Donald Trump, but for Trump himself. Just to point out, you know what, my little parvenu, New York real estate huckster, this is 500 years of royal tradition that is utterly convinced it's right. And in fact, the family motto is "God is my right," so don't mess around with us. So I think that's absolutely brilliant. And once again, it's the fact that separatists are angry over this. Tant mieux. This has been a terrible week for Quebec separatists, Aaron. If nothing else, this election campaign, whether you're at the federal level or the provincial level, this election campaign has really relegated what has been an over-amplified voice in Quebec to the sidelines. The reality is Quebecers had a choice to make. They said, who can protect my interests in this day and age? And guess what? It wasn't Yves Blanchette with his Bloc Québécois, perpetually complaining Bloc Québécois. And I think this does not bode well for the fortunes of the Parti Québécois next year, simply because if once again, Carney's got to prove himself, but if he pulls this off, it's going to be very, very difficult to peddle yet another referendum to Quebecers who, quite frankly, may have dodged a big, fat Trump-like bullet courtesy of Mark Carney.
Jim, for context, for me to understand as well, perhaps as our listeners, this idea of getting King Charles and Queen Camilla to come here, this is designed as a message to, do you think, Donald Trump specifically?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is, you know what, you can run around and hang around with your billionaire buddies. You know, we've got half a millennium of tradition on our side. This is who we are. This. You want us to be a 51st state? Sorry, we're part of the Commonwealth, which was part of the British Empire, which, in fact, predates the United States. So, you know what? Just take a deep breath, calm down. This is who we are, and this is who we are always going to be. And if, as a footnote, that message gets sent to some separatists in Quebec, as far as I'm concerned, calm you.
Okay. From that, I want to know what you think about the speech you heard today. We're going to play it in its entirety right after our break, but I was quite impressed by you.
Absolutely. And the idea, well, are you going to do a deal with the NDP? No.
Yeah.
Full stop. No. Next paragraph. The guy obviously has a plan. He's thought out what he's going to do. He's not hesitating. And I have to tell you, I heard you talking. I think it was Carlton Trail yesterday, and he seemed to have his nose out of joint a little bit. Well, you know, we spoke to the BBC before we spoke to any. Listen, once again, sending a message to Trump when he appears on the BBC and is being perceived as the head of the resistance to Donald Trump. That message is being received loud and clear in Europe. And believe me, the Europeans are looking for someone to stand up to Trump very forcefully. They're not seeing it coming out of the UK, but all of a sudden, as I say, this devious sense of fun is really translating into a kind of realization that, you know what, Donald Trump's got his little social media platforms, but this guy, Mark Carney, he's been around forever. He's got connections. He has infinitely more connections than Donald Trump would dream of having. And I think we're just beginning to realize the scale of that now. Now, once again, as I say, he's still got to bring home the bacon. We'll see what happens next week. But right now, I don't think people are going to look at this or listen to this press conference later on the show and feel any kind of buyer's remorse. I think we may have inadvertently, despite everything else, made a good choice of making this guy the prime minister.
So what'd you think of the Pierre Poilievre situation, right? And I thought that was talk about statesman-like, right? And we speculated a couple of days ago, what would he do? Would he drag out a by-election for 6 months? Absolutely not.
So the election's on Monday, okay? By lunchtime Friday, the same week, we discover that the Conservative MP for Battle River Crowfoot will resign and give up his seat to be sought in a by-election by the hapless Pierre Poilievre. The first thing that went through my mind, Aaron, when I saw that was Battle River Crowfoot. Isn't that where they make cornflakes? But actually, that's Battle Creek, Michigan. But the thing is, what consultation occurred within the caucus and within the party to determine that Pierre Poilievre was the guy to continue leading this party? I didn't hear anything about that. They must have had the most discreet, quiet, secret little meeting you ever heard. Because apparently Pierre Poilievre, who blew a double-digit lead and lost in his own riding, remains the best and brightest choice to lead the Conservative Party of Canada. And don't be surprised if, in announcing a by-election, if Mark Carney, ostensibly being very, how can I put it, gentlemanly and sporting, will say, you know what, we're not going to run a candidate in this by-election. If only because anybody with as ridiculously bad a political election record as Pierre Poilievre, who can be relied upon to keep parroting the same three-word slogans over and over again, is like a political rabbit's foot for someone like Carney. He'd love to have him as his adversary because he knows, and I think we all know, what exactly to expect. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out.
I just love that he wasted no time in simply saying, "Look, if he wants to run, by all means, I'm not going to hold it up." I thought that was great.
And the other sort of tacit message, Aaron, is like, you know what? This is not the number one thing I'm worried about.
Exactly.
Right now.
Yeah, good point.